Hi guys, this is gsndon.com and I'm here with the LG Google Nexus 5 for a full review of the handset. This is the second Nexus phone made by LG. It was announced back in October and it was offered for sale in November. This device is the first Android 4.4 KitKat handset on the market and the price tag is $350. I have to remind you that if you watch the review of the Nexus 4, you probably know by now that I wasn't a big fan of that device, and maybe the Nexus 5 would change my opinion about the cooperation between Google and LG. Now let's discuss the design a little bit. So we're dealing here with a handset that measures 8.6mm in thickness. Theoretically it's thick, but in the day-to-day use you'll feel that it doesn't seem thick quite at all. The weight here is 130 grams and the handset sits pretty well in the user's hand. It's a hand-friendly format, this one. You can access all the important areas of the screen and one-hand use is pretty okay. The back features a soft touch material that's a bit of a grease magnet, although on paper that shouldn't happen. We got a very slim bezel here, as you can see next to the screen, almost no edge at all. And compared to the Nexus 4, this model is 9 grams lighter and 0.5mm thinner. The design is pretty simple, as you can see, nothing fancy. We got a matte finishing at the back. The soft touch back is very much like the one of the Nexus 7 2013. The body is pretty resilient in spite of not featuring any unibody metal design. This one is a polycarbonate case, in case you're wondering. We've got Gorilla Glass 3 covering the front side, and this big camera lens really sticks out from the back of the handset. There's also this big logo right here that was leaked months ago when the first Nexus 5 leaks appeared. At the top we've got the audio jack right here and the small microphone hole next to it. At the bottom we got the two speakers here. It may seem that they're speakers, only one of them is a speaker and the other is a cover up for the microphone. Here you can see the micro USB port. And moving to the front, we got the earpiece here with a very original design. It's simply round. We got the front camera here, and at the bottom of the screen there's a notification LED that you're probably familiar with already. On the sides we got the on-off button right here, and below it we got the micro SIM tray that you can pull out with a special key, while on the other side we got the volume button. I have to mention that this on-off button will not be felt when trying to find it blindly, so you can actually miss it easily because it cannot be felt that well. Okay, this is the least rounded Nexus phone that I've seen up until now, which may be a bad thing, may be a good thing. If you prefer rectangular phones, this one is for you because it's much less rounded than its predecessors. The design is overall okay. It beats the Nexus 4 if you ask me, and it's a horrible glass back that I didn't like one bit. Now on the hardware side, what we get here is a display with a diagonal of 4.95 inches. This one is a True HD IPS Plus screen, and it has a resolution of 1920 over 1080 pixels plus Gorilla Glass 3 protection. The CPU inside this device, well, it's a quad-core Snapdragon 800 clocked at 2.3 GHz, and the GPU here is the Adreno 330. There's no microSD card slot on this device whatsoever. The battery is not removable, and the handset comes in versions with 16 or 32 GB of internal storage. We've got 2 GB of RAM here and the camera at the back. This one is an 8 megapixel camera with LED flash. At the front we have a 1.3 megapixel camera right here. On the connectivity side we get quad band, GSM, GPRS, Edge, and LTE, micro USB. You got slim port, TV out, Bluetooth 4.0, NFC, Wi-Fi, DLNA, GPS, and GLONASS on this device. In the section of and other things, we find the accelerometer, proximity sensor, active noise cancelling, gyroscope, and barometer. Now I want to talk just a little bit about the battery, and for that I have saved some screenshots. Okay, so first things first, we got a lithium polymer unit with a capacity of 2300 mAh. On paper this should provide 17 hours of 3G talk time. In our tests that involved 720p playback with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%, we achieved 4 hours and 17 minutes of continuous HD playback from 100% to about 4% of the battery, so pretty much all the battery. The level is similar to a previous handset we've tested, the AllView X1 Soul, and this model also will offer you about 5 hours of gaming. As you can see here, after 1 hour of gaming, 20% of the battery is gone. So 4 hours of video playback, 5 hours of gaming. Could have been better. Overall, you should get about 12 to 16 hours of average use during a day from my experience. But keep that in mind, 4 hours of continuous HD playback and the battery will be dead. Now, as far as the audio is concerned, let's play a tune and hear how the speaker here can handle the heat. Okay, so let's listen to this song. Here we go. Maximum volume. Okay, so you get the idea. By the way, that was the maximum volume available here. You should know that I have tried to connect this handset to a PC in order to transfer some songs to it, and it required some special drives to install, which bothered me just a little bit. As you saw, we got the typical equalizer available for this handset. I have to admit that the clarity is pretty good. The speaker is not that loud, and I say speaker because although there are two holes here, only one of them is the speaker and the other one is basically a microphone covered with a speaker design. The bass is pretty good, the clarity is good, and as I said, it's not as loud as I would have wanted it to be. And I must say that the handset doesn't come with bundled headphones, but you probably knew that already from the unboxing. However, if you do use a pair of headphones, the volume is very high and the bass becomes very good depending on the type of headphones you have. Frankly speaking, when you listen to music using these speakers, there's something missing that I don't know what sound that is missing, and it's below the performance of the Galaxy S4 and the HTC One, obviously. And also, by the way, when you're watching a video or playing a game, it's very easy to cover up the speaker with your hand. Obviously, if you hold it like that, it's actually too easy to cover it up. So overall, the audio tends to be a little bit underwhelming, although a recent software update kind of fixed that problem. Now let's have a look at the experience here when it comes to the screen. So we got a video sample with a lot of color. Here we go. This is a 5-inch True HD IPS Full HD screen with a density of 445 ppi, realistic colors. It also has wide viewing angles, as you can see, so no problem with the viewing angles on this device. Moving further, the brightness achieved here is 400 lux units on white, which is very okay, and on black we achieve 5 lux units, which is not okay since the black is not dark enough, and that will show when you're watching a movie. I have to say that in full sunlight the screen behavior is just fine. You don't have problem with the contrast or the behavior in full sunlight. Overall, it's a very good screen, and aside from the black level, I'm very happy with it. Even the icons shown this close reveal how good the screen and how crisp it is. Okay, now we move further to the camera, a very interesting and controversial aspect of this device. I'm going to use this little castle here. Okay, so we're dealing with an 8 megapixel camera here with LED flash, optical image stabilization, and a sensor that measures about 1/3 of an inch. The pixels here, well, they measure 1.4 microns, and this is the picture I've just taken. Level of detail looks pretty good. That's certainly not a problem of this device. Okay, so let's continue our analysis of the camera. Now let's check out the interface. As usual, from Android 4.2 onwards, we get this type of mechanism where you can select between options by keeping the screen pressed. So location, we got this countdown timer available, Frankly speaking, I'm not very good with this interface, and I have said it repeatedly, I don't like this choice of options. We got picture size here, we can also select them like this, and you also got white balance with a few modes available. Let's see what else. We got scene modes here, there's even a special party mode. As you can see, it livens up everything. And other options include the HDR Plus mode that I will address a little bit later. As you can see, there is a slight bit of lag when switching between the modes. We got exposure values to set up, obviously some flash options, and that's pretty much it. Then there are the capture options that include photo taking, video taking, panorama, and photosphere. This is the video area with its own settings, white balance, and time-lapse, HD, and storing location. As you can see, we don't have too many options available here. And now back to the photo for a simple zooming in. This is the zooming in mechanism. It looks fancy, but the quality kind of gets lost when you tend to zoom in too much. Okay, so as you saw, we played with exposure, HDR plus, settings, white balance, and with the photosphere there is a cool little thing. You can actually create a sort of mini planet. So let's access the gallery. These are the pictures I've taken, and this is what you can do. I created a photosphere, and then I created this mini planet using it, which is a pretty cool idea. And now let's have a look at the pictures we've taken with this device. As you can see, we took pictures of colorful things. The colors may tend to feel a bit cold, even if in reality they're actually very warm. There's a slight tendency to make colors colder. The quality is okay, in case you're wondering. It's clearly above the quality of the camera on the Nexus 4, so at least that's solved. Once again, the colors aren't very warm. However, you should know that this picture quality of the Nexus 5 is below the Galaxy S4 and even below the HTC One Mini, if I can say that. And now I want to show you what the HDR Plus is all about. There is a picture that speaks for itself. So we got this picture right here with a monument and a truck. You cannot see the logo on this car, but with HDR Plus, here we go, it's totally brightened up and more clear, so that's one of the uses of the HDR Plus. We also have some good macro shots. I was happy with the close-ups here, so I was checking out this little elephant. I went closer and closer, and the macro shots and the level of detail is actually pretty impressive, so I have to say we're happy with the close-ups. One thing I must mention here is that when you're using the camera, the viewfinder will show the image in 16:9, although the picture is in 4:3, so you can lose a lot of space that you can use to frame up your picture, and that's a bit of a bummer. Okay, so for those of you wondering what the HDR Plus actually does, well, it takes a series of burst shots that are combined into one single picture using special algorithms, and the result is the picture you saw earlier. By the way, this is a panorama taken with this handset. Looks pretty neat, and here's another one, a larger one, and some various other close-up shots. You see a full gallery. We published a text review of this handset, and this is the photosphere I was talking about. It looks very nice. It has finally been evolved into something that actually stitches up images in a faster way. Speaking of speed, the camera is not exactly the fastest in the world. However, the recent Android 4.4.1 update made it faster. And speaking of things that are not exactly bad, we have some low light capture to show you. It was night and the capture didn't look that bad. It was about 9 PM and the pictures were not that bad. Here we go. Of course, it doesn't compare to the HTC One, but still pretty good low light behavior. Now on the video side, the stabilization isn't that good. One would expect a better stabilization from this handset, but in fact it wasn't really that good. So we also have a video showing that. It's a video of a person spinning on a carousel. It should have better stabilization, but you'll see that in fact it doesn't. It tends to lose focus at times. However, what I notice here is that when you're zooming in, the quality will be kept. to a decent level. I have a video right here at the start where I zoom in and the quality doesn't suffer, and also the audio recording is quite decent. The filming is done in Full HD, 30 frames per second. There aren't many options when you start capturing video. The bitrate is 17 mega per second, and the focus tends to be lost quite a bit, although as you can see when you zoom in, the quality is pretty decent. The level of detail is what I would call okay, but nothing more than that. And as I said, you're going to have a full gallery to look at in our text review. At night you'll notice that the pictures will tend to have quite a bit of noise, but the quality is well below the level I was expecting. And by the way, Android 4.4.1 will bring a fix for the autofocus problems, better speed, better low light, a progress indicator for HDR+, so overall you should get a decent camera out of the Nexus 5. And speaking of overall and conclusions, the camera of the Nexus 5 is well beyond the camera of the Nexus 4, it's superior, and it has some flagship capabilities. It takes good shots at night, it takes good close-ups, and the panoramas look pretty nice. So overall it's a decent camera that could become even better with an update. You can even do some photo editing if you want. You can access a picture and press this button here and you'll see a selection of filters here: instant, latte, blue, X-process, plus some frames that you can apply, some cropping, straightening up, mirror, and some stuff to modify like the shadows, the exposure, the contrast, highlights, saturation, sharpness. So quite a lot of stuff to play with here as far as the pictures are concerned. And now we move further to the performance analysis and analysis of the device behavior when put under stress. After playing about 15 minutes of Riptide GP2, we achieved a temperature of 42 degrees Celsius at the back of the phone, which is kind of high, I have to say it, but it's not in an area where you place your hand, so that's good. But you must remember that the handset tends to get hot if you do a lot of gaming. Now is the time for the big old benchmarks. So I'm going to go to the screenshot area, and you must know that I decided to compare the Nexus 5 with the LG G2, Samsung Galaxy S4 and HTC One. Well, in quadrant we scored 8,675 points. We got beaten by the LG G2 with its 17,000 points, by the Galaxy S4 with 12,000 points, and by the HTC One with 12,000 points. In Antutu, a better score, it's 22,280 points. It's interesting that Antutu shows an image of a concept of the Nexus 5, and this score gets beaten by the LG G2 by 11,000 points, while the Galaxy S4 is pretty close with 23,000 points, and HTC One, it has almost the same score, 22,000 points, 553. In Nanomark, a good score, 60.2 frames per second, and we beat the LG G2 with its 58 frames per second. We have almost the same score of the Galaxy S4, 60 frames, and the HTC One has 61 frames per second. Here is a disappointing and surprising result in Velamo. 1384 in HTML5 got beaten by at least 1,600 points by the other rivals. It may be the fact that the benchmark is not optimized for KitKat yet. This is the 3D Mark test that we performed. We achieved a pretty impressive 16,654 points. We beat all the other models. Galaxy S4 scores about 10,000 points, HTC One goes a bit over 10,000, and LG G2 15,000. So we beat all of them in probably the most relevant tests of all, 3D Mark. The browser performance is very good. 2,782 points. We only got beaten by the LG G2 by about 100 points, but the real life experience is that the browser is very fast. Speaking of fast, here we go. Let's check out gsnon.com and how fast it loads. Okay, not the fastest in the world, but still not the slowest. Once the connection started going, the website was totally here. Here's some pinch to zoom for those of you who actually want to see the crisp and quality screen and the fact that you can read text without having to zoom in. And by the way, speaking of stuff related to browsing, web speeds and all that, You probably saw that we also have a speed test here. Well, we achieved about 8 megabytes per second when downloading stuff, and the iPhone 5 achieved on the same network about 13 megabytes per second, so the speed is not exactly great. I pulled this test off because when I was downloading the game Tor, I felt the speed was a bit too low. Remember, the benchmarks that I showed you earlier may not be optimized for Android 4.4 KitKat, that's what's causing the score. And for those of you actually wondering what we're running, Android 4.4, and these days I'm going to update to Android 4.4.1. Speaking of Android 4.4.1, I must mention that what it brings to the table is a camera app that's faster, higher audio volume, better benchmarks, a faster cam focus, and better camera white balance, truer colors, and the ability to pinch to zoom in HDR plus mode. So those are the improvements that Android 4.4.1 brings. Now, as far as KitKat goes, the following section of the review is totally dedicated to Android 4.4 KitKat. For starters, you can see that the design has changed quite a bit. The status and system bar are now transparent. We get bigger icons. If you look at the Nexus 4 with the older jelly bean on it, you can see that the icons are now totally bigger. The phone one is actually the one that stands out here since it's basically huge. There are no widgets here in the app section. You can trigger them by keeping the screen pressed and pressing this. So these are the widgets right here. They now have bigger icons and they have a whitish highlight behind them. They remind me of an older version of HTC Sense. And you can trigger the search by saying, "OK Google, look for restaurants nearby," and you can do that every time you want. You're simply in a home screen, you say "OK Google," and it's going to be done. From what I know, this is the merit of the Snapdragon 800 processor, and we got a special Google Now home screen that shows you stuff like the weather, result of your favorite football team, information for your commuting to work, stocks, and other stuff that you can customize. Sports team, stocks, places, everything else, reminders, and anything you want. So one of the home screens, the one to the left, has become your Google Now headquarters. Everything in this interface is now more white, everything feels brighter. That's what Google wanted to do with KitKat. So another interesting aspect is that if you're in a dialer and you start looking for something, even if it's not among your contacts, it will be searched. So even if you don't have, let's say, Pizza Hut in your contacts, it will start looking for it, so it's a more general search. You can see that even in the dialer, you'll feel that search is primary and phoning people is secondary. So that's probably the future. And the idea is that what I was looking earlier, it will show you stuff depending on how near they are to you, so nearby contacts and addresses have priority. Google implemented here something that they call immersive mode. The idea is to make apps full screen. And to demo that, I'm going to show you playbooks. You open up a book, and this is the immersive mode. So basically, this area on the bottom and the top are cancelled, and you can get a full screen view. You also saw that in the video playback, everything disappears, even the buttons here, for the immersive mode experience. There is also a cute Easter egg in Android 4.4 KitKat. About phone, I keep tapping the version. And this is the Easter egg. As you know, Nestle and Google have partnered up for the whole KitKat thing. And now you get emojis. So if I go into Hangouts and I want to write a message to someone, this is the list of emojis that are available here. Cute little, funny little guys and symbols that you can send. There's a ton of them. Kitties, cows, smiley faces, and all that. So emojis are available in Android 4.4 KitKat. Other stuff worth mentioning is that the Hangouts app now holds your SMS, text messages, MMS, video calls, and you can even share GIFs using it. On this device, you'll get pre-installed Quick Office. As you can see here, it has a brand new icon and brand new functionality. You've got documents, spreadsheets, and presentations available here. There's also pedometer support implemented by Google in Android 4.4. This is a very fast operating system courtesy of the Project Svelte technology, and now the lock screen holds a camera shortcut like this, reminding us of the one in iOS 7. It's inevitable, the comparison. And there's also an evolved wallet here, So there is also the tap and pay feature, and general wallet features have evolved and you can make a ton of e-payments. There is support for wireless printing. You should find something related to it here. Here we go. Printing, CloudPrint, OK. HP Print Service plugin, so improved wireless printing has been activated, and you can also do some screen recording. What I'm telling you right now is something that's a hearsay rather than something I've tested. You can record 3 minutes of screen time in MP4 format when you connect to the PC and do a bit of workaround magic and tweaks, but I didn't try it, so I cannot speak for that. There's also a bit of a confusion here in the photos area. We got the gallery that shows you the pics, and we got an app called Photos. This was usually associated with Google+, but it's also a cute way to show you the pictures on your device. It's more Google+ oriented, and this update, KitKat, is a pretty big one that has changed a lot of stuff. Ever since Ice Cream Sandwich, I haven't seen so many changes. Now it's that part of the review where we have a look at the list of apps that are pre-installed on this device. There's nothing surprising here, so don't worry about that. So we got Google Drive, that allows you to store articles or content. You can scan stuff, you can edit it on the go with other partners. And then comes Quick Office with the ability to mess with documents with your basic editing needs. Here you can see the font, paragraph, bold, italic, underline, and other famous options. You can also play with spreadsheets. This is basically a replacement for Microsoft Office coming from Google. They already had Drive with a similar purpose. And then there is the classic Google Earth. I don't feel there's been much changes here, just that it's bundled on this phone. There are many devices where this app is not bundled. Even on a Snapdragon 800 device, it tends to stutter sometimes. It's a huge app with a huge map and real-life graphics. I'll show some landmarks from the area. Moving even further, we got your Gmail right here. It hasn't evolved very much. I have to say that what's evolved is the standard email app that's now closer to Gmail in the design area. Then there's Google+. With a cleaner interface than ever. And then there's Keep, your basic note-taking application. Got a single column view, you can add a quick note, you can add lists, or simply stuff to be reminded about. Then there's the good old Maps. With some public transit indications as well. It works like a charm on a Snapdragon 800 device like this one. No lag whatsoever. And moving even further, let's see what other apps we got here. There's Play Games. It's basically your control center for your games, recent games, installed games, your friends, your activity, games you've played recently, games you've played with your friends, recommended games, and other content related to gaming. And then there's Newsstand, Let's Play Newsstand, which is relatively new. This is how you can view news from a variety of sources. This may make Flipboard feel a bit jealous because it has a very clean interface. There is My News, there is bookmarks, there is the ability to explore content from various fields, add some sources, look up for stuff, and that was basically the Newsstand. Now in the settings area, you'll find these new features that are tap and pay and printing. So that's basically all the review, folks. Time for the final grades and the conclusions related to the Nexus 5. On the Pro side, we got a nice design. We have a comfy handset that sits very well in the user's hand. We got a pretty fast charge. The battery takes about 1 hour and 50 minutes to reach from 0% to 100%. The price is pretty appealing here, which is well below $400. It's $350, appealing for a phone with a Snapdragon 800 processor inside. I like the speed of delivery for Android 4.4.1. Google was really fast to deliver it, so that's a big bonus. The screen is very good, very bright and very crisp. You can see the text just fine on our website without having to zoom in, pinch to zoom. Android 4.4 feels very high performing, very fast, and it has a lot of new features, and this new design is welcome. On the con side, there are also negative aspects. 42 degrees Celsius on the back of the phone when gaming. The battery is kind of weak. I mean, 5 hours of video playback or so is not very impressive, I have to admit. The audio is pretty weak, however, with the recent update, the audio should be just a little bit better. We'll have to see how much better. The fact that we don't get headphones may be underwhelming for some people, but everyone has headphones in their houses these days. The dark areas of the screen are too bright, 5 lux units, the camera lacks more options to have fun with. The camera UI is still uncomfortable if you ask me, if you keep pressing the screen for the extra options to appear, and also the camera tends to lose focus, and there are some minor other bugs in the interface that may bother you. Overall, the Nexus 5 gets from gsmknown.com a 9.5 out of 10 for design, an 8.5 out of 10 for hardware. This is where it lost points for the battery, the audio, and slightly for the screen. And now for the OS and user interface, a 9.5 out of 10. The camera UI is the only reason why it didn't get a 10. The final grade is 9.16 out of 10 for the Nexus 5 from gsmknown.com. It's a much better phone than the Nexus 4, remember that, but it's a not so good phone when compared to the LG G2 that we're also testing right now. This is it, folks, full review of the Nexus 5 at gsmknown.com. Bye bye.